the Natya Shastra in the 4th century AD. This great idea, however, remained quiescent for several centuries owing to various reasons. The idea was revived and given a philosophic form in the 9th century by Bhattanayaka in Kashmir, to which I referred earlier. According to Bhattanayaka, aesthetic experience or rasa is similar to, but not identical to the direct experience of Brahman, Brahmanubhuti. However, Bhattanayaka is careful to point out that although samadhi or yogic experience and aesthetic experience have some similarity, the differences between them cannot be ignored. In the first place, aesthetic experience is temporary, and secondly, it does not remove maya or ignorance from the mind, whereas the experience of samadhi produces long-lasting effects and frees a person forever from maya or ignorance. Thirdly, although aesthetic experiences are manifestations of the Ananda aspect of Brahman, the types of joy they give are far inferior to the supreme bliss of realization of Brahman. The Taittiriya Upanishad speaks of different levels of happiness. Sense pleasures constitute the lowest form of joy. Aesthetic joy, the joy given by art, is higher than sense pleasure, but is much lower than the bliss of Brahman gained through samadhi or higher spiritual experience. Bhattanayaka's ideas profoundly influenced Abhinava Gupta, the great Kashmiri scholar of the 12th century. It was Abhinava Gupta who expounded and placed on a firm foundation the theory of rasa, which is the central idea of Indian aesthetics. I shall next briefly mention the Western concept of art. As was stated earlier, in Western culture, art is regarded as a pursuit of values. From Plato onwards, Western philosophers have held truth, goodness, and beauty to be the ultimate values. Among them, art is regarded as a pursuit of the ultimate value, beauty. Western aesthetics began with Plato. According to Plato, all objects in the universe are only imperfect copies of the perfect models or ideas in God's mind called archetypes. The artist should imitate nature in such a way that his artwork should be an approximation to the ideal form in God's mind. This view of Plato gave rise to two schools in Western art, namely realism and idealism. In realism, the artist attempts to reproduce an object known as the model exactly as it is. Early Greek and Roman artists were realists. Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa and Raphael's Madonnas are really portraits of local women. In landscape painting, the 19th century British painter John Constable is a well-known representative of realism. Realism was criticized by several Western painters like the 18th century English artist Joshua Reynolds, who stated that, quote, all the arts receive their perfection from an ideal beauty superior to what is found in individual nature. This view gave rise to the school known as idealism. The ancient Greek sculptor Phidias, the Italian sculptor and painter Michelangelo, and the English painter Joshua Reynolds are well-known representatives of idealism. In landscape painting, the Flemish painter Rubens, French painter Corot, and English painter Turner are examples. The realistic and idealistic schools produce many other great painters like Bellini, Van Eyck, Rembrandt, Wilson, Velázquez, and Delacroix. These schools continued to flourish in Europe until Impressionism was introduced in the 1870s in France by Manet, Monet, Renoir, Pissarro, and others. The Impressionists, instead of imitating nature, attempted to record the impressions which the objects produce in the mind. This was followed by Post-Impressionism, propounded by Vincent van Gogh, Paul Cézanne, Gauguin, and others. These artists held the view that the function of art is to serve as a medium for the expression of man's lived experiences, desires, feelings, etc. Expressionism finally led to abstract art developed by Picasso, Paul Klee, Klein, Kandinsky, and others. There are also other schools of art such as Surrealism, popularized by Salvador Dali, Chirico, and others. In recent years, there is a movement to make spirituality a distinct mode of art expression. The Russian painter and writer Vasily Kandinsky is one of the early proponents. A few months ago, there was a seminar on spirituality in art here in this institute. After discussing Indian and Western conceptions of art, it just turned to Swami Vivekananda's views on art. Professor Bhattacharjee has already given you a good idea about Swamiji. I would like to add a few more points. According to Swamiji, the essence of art is the expression of an idea. He was very much against the conception of art as imitation of nature. Anand Kumar Swami, in his introduction to the first part of the 7th volume, which I already referred to, also states that in the Indian art tradition, to quote, to resort to a living model accessible to observation, that is pratyaksha, is prohibited because the living model as a natural object is not a symbol and has no meaning. Its appeal is merely sensational and not disinterested, quote, end quote. The gods and goddesses of Hinduism that which the artists paint are not like ordinary human beings. They are symbolic, abstract images. Swamiji's famous, well-known quotation about Greek art as the imitation of nature and true art, Swamiji compares to a lily. Professor Sabir Bhattacharjee just now gave you the quotation, so I don't want to repeat it. Unifying the Western and Indian conceptions of art, Swamiji says, the artist is the witness who testifies to the beautiful. Art is the most unselfish form of happiness in the world. The art is the most unselfish form of happiness in the world. It's a very important statement which much could be spoken about this, but want of time, don't attempt it here. In this connection, we may apply Swamiji's definition of education to art as well. Swamiji's definition of education is well known. Education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. We may apply that to art also. Art is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. Art lifts a person beyond sense-bound life and enables him to manifest the divinity, divine joy, divine knowledge, divine perfection that are already present in his soul in a potential form. In this keynote address, my aim was to introduce the two parts of the 7th volume, so ably edited by Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan, and also to present a brief comparative study of Indian and Western conceptions of art. Before concluding, I would like to discuss briefly two more points. The first point about certain neglected areas in Indian art. Two neglected areas I would just to mention. The first neglected area is the impersonal aspect of the ultimate reality. One common feature of Indian art is the profusion of images. Images of gods, goddesses, demigods and humans. Wherever you go, temple architecture, everywhere, you will find mostly the focus of Indian artists is mostly on the person, the personal aspect. The impersonal is conspicuous by its absence in Indian art. Even landscape painting we rarely come across, except the superb paintings of Himalayas in recent years by Nicholas Roerich. The dominant philosophy of India during the last 1000 years has been Advaita Vedanta. But this great philosophical perspective has had no place in art. No systematic attempt has been made to make art a medium for communicating the truths of Advaita. By striking contrast, the impersonal perspective dominates the Chinese and Japanese schools of art. Mahayana Buddhism in China mingled with the Taoism and gave rise to Chan, which changed to Zen in Japan. The central theme of Mahayana Buddhism is shunya, or emptiness of everything. The Japanese are highly successful in conveying the idea of shunya through paintings. Most of the Japanese and Chinese paintings are actually sketches using Indian ink. In paintings, they're through sand gardens, through tea ceremony, ikebana, and a host of other means. The Japanese have integrated spiritual and the impersonal both into art. Swami Vivekananda was a great admirer of Japanese art and culture. Indian artists have much to learn from Chinese and Japanese art. Some of the modern Western art makes little sense to ordinary mortals, whereas the Japanese express abstract ideas through art motifs which are understood by all. The second neglected point in art I would like to mention is the glorification of motherhood in art. In Indian culture, motherhood is given the second highest honor, next only to the guru. And family life is centered around the mother. But this is not reflected in art. Portrayal of women is a major preoccupation of Indian artists and sculptors and poets, dramatists. But it is the attractive and the seductive aspect of woman that is generally portrayed, and not the maternal or motherly aspect. By contrast, in European culture, the image of Virgin Mary as the mother of baby Jesus has inspired scores of great artists. There are thousands of paintings, engravings, sculptures depicting the motherhood of Mary. It may be noted here, Mary is only the mother of Jesus. She is not the mother of all. Our idea of Jagadamba, God as the divine mother of all beings, is not accepted in Christianity. It is only in recent years, with the advent of Sri Sharada Devi, the Holy Mother, that the idea of mother of all has become established in the world as a truth and as a realizable ideal. She herself said, "It is to manifest the universal divine motherhood that Sri Ramakrishna has left me behind in this world." We hope that the life of Sharada Devi will inspire the inauguration of a new movement in art, glorifying womanhood or the maternal aspect of motherhood, the maternal aspect of womanhood. The second point I would like to wanted to discuss today was art as yoga. Is art a yoga? Is art meant only for enjoyment, or can it be a means of a pathway to the highest spiritual realization? Can art be become a sadhana, a means, a yoga for highest realization? So for want of time, I don't want to continue. Just I will conclude with a quotation given from Nandalal Basu. He gave the talk on art as sadhana. The talk was given, of course, in Bengali and giving the English translation. All the different arts of sculpture, painting, poetry, music, dancing, etc. are united in a single endeavor. Every one of them, in its own way, through a rhythm peculiar to it, tries to express the rhythm of joy, which is the essence of the whole creation. In that respect, the sadhana of art is akin to yoga. You aim at realizing the one hidden behind all that is apparent, the one by knowing which one comes to know everything. An artist has the same goal. Here, Sri Nandalal Basu speaks of art as yoga from the standpoint of artist. Art can also be regarded as yoga from the standpoint of the viewer or the connoisseur or the sahridaya, the enjoyer, the experiencer of art. From the Professor Shiriyanna was a great scholar and the head of the Department of Sanskrit used to say, art is layman's yoga. So art may be viewed as a yoga from the standpoint of the artist and also from the standpoint of the experiencer, the enjoyer of art. So because of for want of time, I will conclude here, my address here, and thank you all for being with me.